welcome to the channel. Today's video is part 2 of our myRanch tutorial about property zones. In part 1 we gave you an overview of property zones and how they're used, so if you didn't see that one, be sure to check it out. Now we're going to practice adding and managing some zones on a property, so let's get started. Before you can create a zone, the unit has to have uploaded sensor data to the server. So if you're installing new equipment, you'll need to allow the unit to sync a couple of times before the sensor can be added. So the first thing we're going to do is create a new zone for our mini weather station. So to do that, first we go to the zone toolbar and select Add New Zone. And the shortcode is a 1 to 6 character alphanumeric code that just determines the placement of the zone in the selector. And the order is based on alphabetical order relative to the shortcodes of all of the other zones. So we'll just call this one MWS for Mini Weather Station. The zone description is what appears on the zone selector. Now we need to choose the sensors we want to add to the zone. This drop-down will show you every unit and every sensor on your property. So you can scroll through here to select the ones you want, but it's much easier to use the search box to filter the list, especially if you have a large number of units on your property. So in most cases, it's easiest to filter by the RSUID of the unit, so that's what I'm going to do here. So we want to pick our sensors for the weather station. Oh, I selected this one by mistake, so I can simply check it again to deselect it. And I want these. And when we're done, we click Keep Sensors. Now at this point, we have the option to change the sensor descriptions. And to do that, we click the Edit button, make our changes, and click Save. Everybody who has access to this property will see the same description for this particular sensor. The order of the list determines how the widgets are added to the zone, going from left to right, top to bottom. If you want to change this order, you can use these arrows to move it up, down, and we can jump all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom. So for example, and when we're finished, we will click Save. And now we have our new zone. And as we mentioned previously, myRanch will automatically generate the correct type of widget based upon the sensor type. For example, the wind direction sensor has a visual indicator of the wind direction. And as we saw in the previous video, because this is a weather station, myRanch automatically adds the weather forecast widget. And that forecast is based on the GPS coordinates of the unit that's reporting the weather station data. Now we're going to add a zone for a new set of irrigation valves installed on our property. So we'll go to Add New Zone. Give it a short code of Control 2. Again, we're going to search by RSUID. And here are our valves. And right now I am only using 8 of them, so that is all I'm going to select. Keep Sensors and Save. And as before, the widgets created are based on the sensor type. In this case, since they're valves, this widget gives you both the status of the valve and the ability to manually turn it on and off, which is why it is a switch. Now let's add one more zone. This time we want to look at air temperatures from different locations across the entire property. So we'll go to Add New Zone. We'll just call this one Temps. All sensors. And again, we could search by RSUID, but this time we're going to go ahead and search by air temperature, sensor description. And I know I want this one, my primary, and the mini weather station. Keep sensors and save. And here's our new zone. But I noticed this one says the data was from 5 months ago, and that's because I picked the wrong one. This is an old sensor that's not currently in use, so we need to remove this one and add the correct one that's currently active. So to edit the zone, there's two different ways to get to it. We can go from the toolbar up here and edit the zone. There's also a link here on the left-hand side under the widgets. Both of them take you to the same place. So let's edit the zone. This time we're going to go ahead and look by the RSUID. Keep the sensor. Let's remove this one that's wrong, and we'll save. And now we have the correct sensor. As always, when you select a zone, the first sensor in the zone is picked by default. So we'll click Graph All so that we can see them plotted together for comparison side by side. Now let's say we also wanted to see the current wind speed at each of these locations. We simply add those sensors to the zone. So we'll edit the zone. We're going to search by the sensor description, wind speed. Now I want this one, and the mini station. Keep sensors and save. And now we have all of our sensors. And as you'll notice, since we added multiple types of weather station sensors, myRanch automatically added the widget, the weather forecast widget. If you didn't need that or didn't want to see it for whatever reason, you could simply go to Edit Zone, suppress weather forecast, and save. And now we see just our sensors. Again, Graph All. And as before, when we graph all, the same types of sensors are combined into their respective plot areas. And as we saw in the last video, you can toggle them on and off if you wanted to. And the axes adjust themselves automatically. Now that we've practiced creating and editing zones, let's look at a few more ways you can customize how your zones are set up. First, you might notice a little problem. We have two zones named valve control. So how can I differentiate between them? So we can just simply change the zone description. So let's go to the first one. We'll go to Edit Zone. And we'll go up here to the description and we'll say valve control block 1. Let's go to the second one. And this one will be block 2. The second thing we can change is the order of the zones. And this can make things more convenient, especially if you have many zones on your properties. And one thing to note is you can only change the order if you're using the static grid format like we're using here, or the carousel. If you were using the drop-down select list, you can't change the order from here given the way that the selector works. So you would have to toggle back over to one of the other views and select it there, and then you could toggle back if drop-down was your preferred view. So to change the order of the zones, we'll go up here to the toolbar and we'll select Reorder Zones. And now we have these right and left arrows. And so in this case, I want to put both of my weather stations together. That's just a little more convenient. And I also want to move my valve control zones so that they're next to each other. And when I'm finished, we go to click the Save button here. And now the zones are in the new order. Just like with the zone and sensor descriptions, all users with access to the property will see the zones in the same order. The third way you can change how your zones are set up is to change the default view of a zone. In this example, we're going to use our temperature and wind speed sensors that are from across the property. Now, the whole purpose of this zone is to quickly be able to compare these values all plotted together. So we'll go to Graph All Sensors, and let's say we decide that the most relevant view of this is really just the last 2 days. So we can select that date range. Now we can save this view as the default. We go up here to the graph toolbar, click Save View. Now every user who has access to this zone, when they select it, this will be the default view as graphed all, and for a date range of 2 days, and that overrides whatever the range they have set in their own property view settings. Again, -1 week. But when I come to this zone, I am going to see 2 days by default. Of course, once I'm here, I can change that if I want to a different date range. I can change, turn sensors on and off. I could select just an individual if I wanted to. Everything works the same. But when I come here by default, I am going to see this view and the 2-day date range. Now, let's say at some point in the future we decide, you know what, maybe I don't need to see 2 days, I want to see 2 weeks. So we could change it to 2 weeks. We can go back here, save the view, and now this will be the default that everybody sees when they come to this zone. And if we decided at some point maybe we didn't need to save this view anymore and we could just go back to the default of the first sensor, we simply go to the graph toolbar and reset view, and we're back to the default. And finally, if your needs have changed and you no longer need a particular zone, you can simply delete it. We go up to the zone toolbar and we'll click delete all temperatures. You can delete the zone, but the sensor values are not deleted. As we saw before, I was able to select a sensor that has old data because once it's there, it's on the server and always available for reuse. And now you see the zone is gone. So that concludes our tutorial today about how to set up and manage property zones in myRanch. I hope you found this helpful. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.